I don't know if I can do this review. This truck is orange. Welcome back to the Scale Builders Guild. Thanks again for watching. Today we're taking the first look, run, and review of the RedCat International Scout Gen 8. Fair warning, there's going to be a lot of cat jokes throughout this review. Rather than spend a lot of time unboxing and showing you all the things that comes in the box, let's just get into it right meow. Yes, you've all seen things come out of boxes before, there's nothing new there. Although there were two things that I should mention about the RedCat and its packaging when you get it out of the box. They do cover the entire body on the top with a nice layer of plastic that you peel off. The idea there is to prevent the body from getting scratched in transit, and that is a nice little attention to detail that I appreciate. Also, you gotta see this. Look at this cool bubble wrap. This piece of bubble wrap came in on the top of the truck, and I gotta say, for packaging purposes, this is fantastic. You can't pop this, and I'm gonna definitely use this again because this is really nice stuff. That kind of thing shows a real attention to detail, and it's nice to see that they're taking this truck seriously. We're gonna try to do as serious a review of this as we can because there's a lot of really interesting features here, and without spoiling it too much, I think there is definitely room for this in your hobby room. I'm running out of room, but hopefully your room is bigger than mine, because I think this is a worthwhile truck to take a look at. By now there's probably a few other reviews online from my contemporaries on the RedCat Gen 8, and I didn't want to be a cheetah, so I didn't look at any of them before I made my own video. It's so bad. Let's start at the top, work our way down. We'll get through the entire thing in this review. First and foremost, this is a very large body. This is a nice looking International Scout 2. It's a licensed body. These rally stripes on the side are very cool, and it's got a really imposing orange body color, but this was very kind of typical for a Scout of this era. I think it looks great. There are lots of nice molded plastic pieces on this body. The grille, of course, is molded plastic. The fender flares are molded plastic, and they've got these nice folding in molded plastic mirrors with the mirror sticker on the back. Those are great. You won't be breaking those off anytime soon because they'll just rotate in as you go past an obstacle. There's also some nice sliders here that are integrated into the chassis. We'll get more into that later. But the best feature, I think, of this body are the inner fenders and the inner fender system that RedCat's come up with to keep everything hidden underneath. And that is, for me, one of the most important things in a scaled trail truck. I don't want to see electronics. I don't want to see light shining through that body. Anything I can do to avoid that, I will. And it's nice that they've included this system, and we'll get more into that as we take the body off. The front and rear bumpers are molded plastic. They include some plastic D-rings, which I think are probably just more for looks than they are for actual performance, because they have an E-clip holding them on. Don't. There is a nice RedCat branded hitch receiver on the rear bumper, and I think that's kind of a nice little touch. You can actually pull the pin on that and put a real hitch on there and pull a trailer with a boat on it, I guess. That's something you're into. A couple of points on the body that I'm not thrilled with. Of course, it's the stickers for windows. And this is the sort of thing that kind of bothers me about trail trucks in this day and age. Most people at the Scale Builders Guild are going to want to put an interior or some sort of basic interior into a truck like this, and not being able to do that straight away is kind of a bummer. I'm sure that RedCat will offer clear bodies later on, and maybe even now, I'm not sure. But this is kind of one thing that I'm not super thrilled about. I do love that they've included these exterior sort of fender flares. They're nice. They're good molded, strong plastic. But the contour of the front one really bothers me. It's really strange. I don't know why they ended up not contouring it to the same pattern as the rest of the body. Because if you look underneath, you can actually see where the body is trimmed out. And then they kind of left this big portion here. I hope it's not just to put their logo on the flare, because it should match the contour of the actual fender and not have this weird kind of extra bit. So we're gonna do something to get rid of that. Lastly, on the exterior of the body, you've already got the mirrors. Why not add door handles and wipers? Those are the only two things that I think were really kind of missing from this. But we can easily remedy that. We're the Scale Builders Guild. Of course, we're going to add something to make that 10 times better. In speaking with the marketing department at RedCat, I got a strong sense from them that they believe very highly in this truck, and they believe in the aftermarket, and they believe in making this truck your own. And I mean, that's what the Scale Builders Guild is all about, is taking something off the shelf and really making it shine by making it your own. So with that in mind, I do know that RedCat will start offering 3D printing files for accessories for the Gen 8. I'm really looking forward to seeing what they come out with. I'm hoping that there's a ton of exterior accessories that you can print yourself at home or send to Shapeways and print that way too. There's a lot of options in 3D printing that are becoming a lot more affordable, and for RedCat to see that market and to understand that that's where they're going to get a lot of people on board makes a lot of sense, and I'm really excited to see what they come up with. Additionally, another nice feature of this body is the number of light buckets that are included. There are no LEDs included for this street price of $299, but they do give you the option of adding them on later. There are 2 for each headlight, there are 4 in the front bumper, there are 6 for the rear tail lights, and another 2 on the rear bumper, for a total of 16 possible LEDs. That's a lot of lights. On this body, on the interior part, there are some plastic supports, and it makes this body nice and rigid. It's a good looking truck. I'm glad they went with a licensed Scout body. I think it's unique, and it's something that is new to the market. It's Lexan, yes, but I think they did a great job, and by not having body pins holding this body on, they've done a great job of keeping the lines smooth and making it look that much more realistic. Speaking of no body pins, you're probably wondering how this body stays on. Well, it's all Velcro. There are Velcro strips included on the inner portion of the fender flares that are attached to the chassis, and also Velcro attached to the body flares. So let's lift this off and get a good look at the inside of this Gen 8 from RedCat. Now that we've got the body off, we get a good look at the chassis overall. The first thing that I notice is this 550 can 17-turn brushed motor attached to a metal motor plate and a transmission that has a bunch of reduction and then a divorced transfer case. So that means that the transfer case actually has its own drive shaft between the transmission and the transfer case, which is a great setup. I love that it's got metal yokes on the drive shaft and a metal motor mount plate. I think these are all great things. There are a bunch of plastic Mod 1 gears in this transmission and transfer case, but I'm not too concerned about that. I think they're going to be fine for the average trail truck and the average user. I'm sure that RedCat will offer metal upgrades, or maybe aftermarket upgrades from other companies will be available at some time in the future. It does offer a lot of space for an interior if that's something you want to do. The motor is not very high on the chassis, which is great, but that does of course mean that the transfer case is a little bit lower and doesn't offer a full flat skid underneath. That said, because this is a portal axle based truck, you may not notice that there's a bit of an underhang from that divorced transfer case. Nice big battery tray, should easily hold a 5,000 milliamp hour pack, 3S, 2S, whatever. On that note, this is a rebranded Hobby Wing ESC. It says 2S, 3S LiPo compatible. It has a 100%, 50%, or 0% drag brake. You can also run nickel metal hydride packs if you so choose, and Dean's plugs are included out of the box. The servo is a Hobby Wing rebrand as well, and it's rated to 200 ounce-inches of torque, which should be plenty for an RTR. I'm not expecting it to be super fast or to even last that long. Another nice feature to this RTR is that the servo includes a metal servo horn. Usually you don't see that at this price point, so that's a nice little inclusion. It is just pot metal, but you know what? It's totally fine. It's more than fine, actually. It's a really nice bonus that it's included. Going over to the other side of the chassis here, you do notice that this nice RedCat branded receiver box has a nice little feature here, and it has these extra little plugs that come out of the box, so you don't have to go in to remove a servo or to change out an ESC. You can just leave the receiver in there and pull out your servo and your ESC and replace those at any time without having to go inside. So that's kind of a cool feature. What's very interesting about this C-channel chassis is that it actually doesn't go the full length of the truck. It actually stops just behind the servo here, and then there is a plastic molded piece that holds the bumper support and the servo mount all in one piece. I found that kind of interesting, and I wondered why they did that, and I'm not totally clear on an answer. One thing I did want to check into, and maybe this is something you can do for me, check the Sorka rules to see if something like this is going to be an issue. I don't think it is. I think as long as the chassis is as long as the wheelbase, I think that's sort of all that really matters in Sorka. But double check that for me and post your answer in the comments below. There is a beautiful catalog of manuals that are included. You should take a look through that if you have any questions on how this truck runs. It's a standard 3-link front and 4-link rear suspension setup. The links are all aluminum and use 3mm rod ends rather than the average 4mm. But again, I don't think that's a huge stress point. I'm not too worried about it. I don't often break links. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. One thing to note that is very interesting, and I actually think this is a really great feature, that you can actually adjust the wheelbase without having to buy or change the links. You actually just move the links on the skid. They've got 3 different mounting positions, front and rear, so you can make this a shorter wheelbase or a longer wheelbase depending on your body specifications. So it is a lot more versatile right out of the box than a lot of other manufacturers, and that's pretty cool. I like that a lot. There are 9 mounting positions for your shocks on the shock towers, and of which are very, very beefy design. There's like no flex in those shock towers at all, and a ton of mounting options gives you a lot of versatility. In the out-of-the-box configuration, you're not getting a ton of travel, and I actually kind of appreciate that because it's a portal axle truck. You want to kind of keep that chassis as low as possible so your center of gravity isn't affected by having it pushed way up high. That said, there are enough mounting positions here that I bet you could get 2.2-inch wheels and tires underneath this truck without having to do much modifying. It's almost like giving it a lift straight from the factory. The diff covers are metal, which is a nice little added feature. They've got universals in the front. They are portals, so if you've never used a portal axle before, in real life there are a couple of trucks that have them, Unimogs, Pinsgauers, Volvo C303s. They all use portal axles, and what you gain is a lot of clearance under the pumpkin. It raises the center of the pumpkin up while maintaining a lot of gear reduction and giving you a lot of power out of those axles. There are more moving parts, of course, so that means more gears and more bearings that could fail, but again, in a trail truck like this, it's not something I'm really too concerned about. One thing about the axles that I'm not super thrilled about is that there is a lot of single shear points instead of double shear. The shocks are single shear, some of the links on the top are single shear, and that could lead to failures, but again, it all kind of depends on how you treat your truck and how mean you are to it. I'm not necessarily all that hard on my stuff, so I'm not too concerned about that. The shocks are aluminum and oil filled, and I don't see any leakage on any of them, which is always a good sign. Maybe there's no oil in them, and that's why. I doubt that that's true, though. I think they are filled with oil. I can tell that there's some rebound in there, and they're all good. It's nice to see a non-leaky shock and aluminum shocks at this $299 price point. That's great. These braces that are included on the shock towers are very robust. You will notice, though, that they did include mounts for body posts in case you do want to go that route. Maybe there's something else out there that you want to run in a different wheelbase. You will need body posts to mount it because these flares and the fenders and everything are sort of proprietary to that Scout body. So that's nice that they're thinking about the aftermarket and what people might want to do to modify this truck in the future. So that's great. Because of all this versatility, there's nothing that's impossible with the RedCat Gen8. Finally, looking at the tires and wheels, these are plastic wheels with metal beadlock rings with Interco Super Swamper licensed tires. The compound feels pretty good. They are soft. They've definitely got a lot of give, and it's pretty decent for an RTR tire. One weird thing, though, is that they decided to go with a memory foam for the inside foam. You do get a spare tire and a spare tire mount, so I took that tire apart so we could get a good look at the memory foam. Here it is. Oh man, this stuff is so weird, and look at how like slow it is to rebound back to normal. Like here, I'll just squeeze this hard. Look at that. I mean, it goes back to shape, but gosh, that is bizarre. This is probably too soft for the Canadian winter that I'm experiencing now, and it's definitely going to affect performance outside because these get really firm when it's cold. So we'll see how that works. That said, in the summertime, these are probably going to be awesome. Probably work great. No kidding around. This is a really great truck. This is RedCat's first in-house design, and I think that they did an excellent job. There's a lot of potential in this chassis. Should you get one? Yeah, I think for the price, $299 for an RTR out the door, with all the features that they've included here, is pretty decent value. They've given you a lot of options and a lot of versatility in this chassis without having to spend any more money. Whether you want to change out the body, whether you want to put larger tires on it, whether you want to change the wheelbase, whatever you want to do, they've given you the options to do it. I really do think it's got some potential, and I'd love to kind of come back and revisit this truck in a few months and see where it's at, what's broken, what hasn't broken, what's worked, what hasn't worked, and kind of do a follow-up review on it. So how does the RedCat Gen8 stack up against the competition? Well, we're gonna have to wait and see on that. I haven't had any time to test it against other vehicles in its class, but I do feel optimistic about its chances. I think for the money, it's hard to not give it a shot. So there you have it, the first look, run, and review of the RedCat International Scout 2 Gen8. I think it's definitely worth taking a look at, and I hope to do more with this truck in the future. There's a lot of things going on at the Scale Builders Guild these days. I hope you'll stay tuned. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you again soon.